Hi, do you want to know how to style this gorgeous big double stack situation, including how to do a good switch base with a rooted hairline? Great, you've come to the right place. A few people have been asking, I've worn the same thing in white here on the channel before, so when I said I would do it, ask and you shall receive. This, if you stay tuned, is going to be how I created a beautiful, gorgeous double stack. You know the drill. Let's get into it. Hi, before we get into things, I just wanted to address two things. First of all, it's a mess, okay? I know, it's just who I am. Don't come for me. Second of all, if I'm walking around limping, it's because I ran 10 kilometers with no preparation whatsoever 2 days ago, and I'm still in a lot of pain. So please don't make fun of me. We're gonna start this double stack up to big curled thing with the base wig. So this one is a Khaki original in Peppy Purple, and we're going to start by, as usual, sectioning out the hand-tied part, like the lace part of the wig, because that's the most important bit of the wig, because it's around the face, and the face is what's photographed the most, generally. So, you know, you want to take that extra time to make sure it's looking how you want it to. So I'm just going to clip it away. And then we can start working on the rest of the wig. And now, because I know I want it kind of slicked back and out of the face, what I'm going to do, and this happens with every wig, like there are components of this wig that are made by hand, but this part that hasn't been sectioned, that's been made by a machine. And errors happen. So you'll notice when you do this part thing that there are some hairs that have been sort of caught underneath the sewing of the wig. So like if you have a look here, there's like hair that's sort of coming forward when it should be going back. So I'm just gonna take a comb and just kind of like brush it back and out of the face, and that way it's gonna sit more smoothly when we slick it back. And you will end up pulling out some hair because it's sort of, those little hairs aren't trapped in the wefts, they're trapped in the sewing of the wig. So when you brush them, they're gonna come loose and out. And this will just help you get a more slick and uniform shape when you put it up into a pony, for example, or slick it back or anything like that. It just allows the hair that we've sectioned away to lie more flat. Great, so that's done. I forgot to mention another important part about an updo. I know this isn't like an updo in the traditional or the sense that your mind would go to when I say the word updo, but when you're doing hair in a ponytail, let's call it, or this is just an updo base, it's important to make sure that the wig is laying completely flat on the wig block. You don't want like an air bubble, or at no point do you want the wig sort of sitting up where there's room between the wig block and the wig itself. You want it flush, and the way you can do that is just taking the time and making sure that the lace is pinned correctly, and then when it comes to the nape of the neck, not pulling it down so that it's extra tight. The problem with that is when you take the pins out and you've got it all nice and smooth, it's going to go and it's going to mess with all of that smoothing that you've just done. Plus, it's not going to look pretty or fit your head. So you kind of want the wig in its natural state, which is not pulled super tight and not sort of scrunched up with air bubbles and things like that between the wig and the cap. Anyway, the next thing that I'm going to do is, with my thing, I'm going to section out the hair on the crown. And if you've seen any of my other updo tutorials before, this will be quite familiar. If you're new here, hi. But when I talk about the hair on the crown, it's everything that's going sort of horizontal as opposed to around the head. So it's that top U-shaped piece of the wig. Now this is going to be the main anchor point for a lot of the weight distribution of the second wig. So this section that we're grabbing now is important because it's going to decide where the topper wig is going to sit. Because what we're ultimately going to do is we're going to chuck it in a ponytail, and then we're going to chuck a donut over that ponytail, and that's what the wig's going to sit on. So you don't want necessarily the whole U-shaped part. What I've gone ahead and done is I've taken the U-shape and then left out the last 3-4 tracks or whatever. And that just shifts everything a little bit more forward so that the weight of the second wig isn't going to be pulling the wig off of our heads. I'm just going to take that and clip that out of the way. Now, when you're pulling all this hair forward like I am for your sectioning, you're going to probably create some of those bubbles that I was talking about before. Like if you see, it's lifted because I'm pulling the hair forward and creating that weird tension. So what I'm going to go ahead and do just temporarily is I'm going to take 2 pins and I'm just going to stick them here and here, so that it's laying nice and flat against the head. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is I want a section of hair, probably about 2.5, 3 inches in another U shape, kind of going around here, and then the nape of the neck, and then up around here. So basically from where your ears would be around to the other ear. And the way I'm gonna do that is just kind of travel diagonally down to the nape of the neck, and there's the first part of our section, and then horizontally, and then another diagonal section to complete that. And you want them to be, you know, the same width all around, roughly. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna add that to my out of the way hair. And what we're gonna do is we're going to, I think it's called a rooted hairline or whatever, but it's basically that section of hair that is down so that you've got extra room to play with covering the nape of your neck. Because unfortunately with updos, they have a habit of riding up, and then you can see your government hair sticking out from the bottom. Because a lot of these wigs are made to like a generic shape, and it doesn't necessarily always completely fit you, or maybe you just don't shave your neck because that's not something you ever really did. I forgot what I was saying. So I'm gonna take this third over here, and I used to do this a little bit differently, so I'll show you what I do now. I'll spray it, and then we're not teasing it. I'm only going to sort of get a little cloud, pull up, and I'm gonna keep doing this until I'm left with quite a bit still left in my hand. But basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a little bit of mess to disguise where the wig ends and whatnot. So you can see here how that's going to work. So this hair that I've just pushed all up, that's going to be as a part of the hair that sits up, whereas this, we're going to later cut to length and texture it and stuff, and that's gonna sit down and cover whatever hairs might be poking out from underneath the wig. I think the popular way to do it is to hold it up and then tease down. But I personally prefer to tease it all up so you're left with the remainder that is sitting down. And then I think it just sits more flat. And look, this step is optional. It kind of just depends how much effort you're willing to put into your updo, but I always think that if you're going to the effort to style a wig, do it properly and you're not gonna regret it. Like nobody ever regrets doing too good of a job, you know what I mean? So we've got 2 out of 3. Now it's the third section and then we can move on to the next step. Cool, look, it looks a little messy at the moment, but that's fine. What I'm gonna do is just hold this hair down and sort of grab and not yank it, but pull up that teasing and really create that separation between what's going up and what's going down. So I'm just gonna kind of go all the way around and just really make that divide clear and get rid of some of that frizz that's kind of going both directions. And then what we can do for your peace of mind so that nothing gets, I guess, lost or mixed up, you can then clip it, tie it, whatever. The most secure way, if you know you're going to, I guess, make a mess of your sections, is to chuck it in a quick little braid, and that'll more securely, I guess, keep all of the hair together. I'm lazy, so I'm not gonna do the whole braid, but now we get a little rat's tail. Isn't that fun? Also, it's a very windy day today, so if you hear the wind whistling, I can't control the weather. So what we're now going to do is we're going to take our big paddle brush, just because it's easier, and brush all of this hair. And the ultimate goal that we're going to be doing with this is we're going to kind of do like a pseudo French twist. I've never seen anyone do this before, but I don't think I'm smart enough to create a new hairstyling technique or a wig styling technique. So I'm unsure whether or not to claim this as my own. But basically we're going to, with the help of zip ties, twist this and then zip tie it up so that it's really not going anywhere. And we're gonna take the time to make it look pretty. So what I'll start with are generally these hairs here, because I was saying before, the face framing bits, right, they're the most important part because everyone's looking at your face and they're always going to be visible and yada, yada, yada. So when we're going to eventually put all that hair back, we need something nice and smooth to sort of lay it on top of. So what I'm going to do is start spraying it down while pulling it nice and tight. Doesn't have to be super clean, but it does have to be flat relatively, so no big chunks or anything like that. And I sprayed it first because there were quite a few flyaways, and sometimes when you're trying to get things to lay flat, you need the help of the hairspray to get those little bits that are kind of here, there and everywhere. And then I'll just freeze it with my hairdryer. You know, another coat. By the way, while I'm doing this, I've got my other hand pulling it sort of nice and tight and flat. And when I'm pulling this hair back, I'm kind of making sure to pull it into my hand so I can catch it all. I'm going to take what are these? Duckbill clip. And I'm going to just sort of hold that there while I do the same to the other side. and then chuck another duckbill clip in there to keep it where we want it. So right now you should be sort of holding all of this hair directly back and up-ish. Now here's where it gets fun. What we're gonna do is now pay attention to our hairline down at the nape of the neck. So what you want to do is, while using your brush and your thumb, pull the hair directly down. And we're going to try and get rid of some of that mess that we've created when we did that hairline before. So I'm kind of just catching the hair between my brush and my thumb and pulling it down. Like so. And then we can start cleaning up these little flyaways here as well. Now, it's important not to fixate and get rid of all of the mess, because then you're just going to sort of brush out all of that work that we've done. But you basically just need to make sure that the hair going down is going down and the hair going up is going up, and there's not too many little random bits of hair that are gonna create mess. So it's really good if you have a wig styling block like mine that is adjustable for the angle and the height and stuff, because you can sort of let gravity do some of the work for you. And then what you can do is, just to sort of help keep the hairs where you want them, a little bit of hairspray, and just start slicking the back up and the hairline bit down. And every now and again, I like to use my big paddle brush just to sort of penetrate a little bit more deeply into this hair that I've got here. And we're not just brushing the surface, we're making sure we've got it nice and clean on the inside too. And then the next step is to start twisting it. And the way that I'll do this, it doesn't matter if you go clockwise or anti-clockwise, that's kind of a moot point, but I start sort of using my brush to sort of bring the hair around. And look, it does get a little messy sometimes, so you can stop to clean it up, but basically you want to start twisting it. And you'll have to do this a few times, because at the moment it looks a little bit messy. And so we sort of bring it back to the original and try again. It would help if my wig block was not broken and moving all around, but that's okay, we make do. But eventually, if you keep brushing it and pulling it sort of around as you go, you're going to get something that you like. So you can even switch back to your teasing brush and have a bit more of a delicate approach to it, where you just sort of keep twisting as you brush the surface of the hair. And if you really nail it, you should end up with something like that. And you can sort of play around and finesse little bits here and there. That's fine too. And we're going to take a zip tie, preferably one of a similar color to the wig that you're using, but I only have white at the moment, so white will have to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to, right at the top here, we're going to go through the hair and make sure you catch the actual wig cap itself. And you can kind of tell when you sort of pull up and sort of look in whether or not you've caught one of the wefts. And while holding it nice and tight in a sort of twist here, you're just going to secure it. And don't let go immediately because you're going to want to do a second zip tie. Probably don't use your teeth like I do. And the reason I want a second zip tie is just because after one, if you let go, it sort of untwists a little bit. So I want to keep it nice and twisted, and that way it stays cleaner for longer. So before I secure the second zip tie, I'm going to make sure it's nice and twisted still, and then tie up my zip tie. Don't use your teeth. All right. Now at this point you can cut the zip ties. I'm gonna wait a second. And you can better assess what's going on here. So use caution when you're playing around with the back of the hair like this, because you don't wanna sort of pull out any of the hair and make you have to do it again. There's nothing more frustrating than when you've got like a nail that's sort of coming off and it catches and then it pulls this big loop out and you have to do it all again. Trust me, it's not fun. I'm pretty happy with that overall. So what we're going to do is we're going to start securing it a little bit, and that just means layers and layers of hairspray. Now, I use my hands a lot for this. And that means that I get really sticky, gross hands a lot. But that's only because, I don't know, I'm impulsive and I don't think about these things. So what I would recommend doing is just using the flat of your hairspray can and just sort of slicking that hair where it should be. And try not to spray the part that we've left down, not at this point. So we're just kind of focusing on all the hair that should be up. Now, when you're spraying as much and as close as I am, use caution, because if you leave these bubbles here for too long, they're not gonna go away. And so you're gonna have these like white globby bits of hair that look a bit gross. What you need to do is you kind of need to work that hairspray into the hair. And that's what I'm doing with the bottle or the can of hairspray. Otherwise, if, I don't know, you're not confident with working against the clock like this, you can sort of do many coats from further away and then you're not gonna get these globs of hairspray. So what I like to do is I'll do one, I guess, wet coat where I sort of go in and do essentially what I'm doing here now. And then I'll dry it with a hairdryer. And then after that layer has been done, I will then do some more layers while spraying from further away and sort of drying it as I go, if that makes sense. So this one, the first layer that we've done is just to make sure everything's nice and flat and where it should be. And then the next one is kind of just locking that in. I don't know. So I actually recently bought a new hairdryer because my old one started smoking and I had to throw it away. But I did have it for like 3 years, so it had a good run. But now I have a diffuser and I don't know if it makes a difference. Maybe I'm just used to having or not having a diffuser, but I mean, I'll use it because I know I'm supposed to, but I don't know. I feel like you could do the same job with just the normal thing. Anyway. All right, and just so you can see, this is kind of what we're working with for the moment. So all of that hair is nice and twisted back, and then when it comes to the hairline itself at the back, it's looking pretty good, I think. So the next thing that we want to do is these hairs that we're going to eventually cut short and sort of slick down. By the way, if you didn't know, the idea is that you're not supposed to be able to tell the hair's going down. It's supposed to look like it's growing straight out of the back of your neck going up. I don't know, but it looks better than seeing wig cap. So we want to make sure that they're sitting down and that's their natural position. So we're going to sort of spray at the root of the hair and freeze it almost immediately. But don't let the hairspray go too far down the hair because we're going to cut it and we can't do that if it's all stuck together. So you just want to keep your hairspray in this sort of teasing section and push it sort of flat against the wig block while going in with your hairdryer and freezing it there. Kind of like that. And we're going to continue that all the way around in small sections, just holding it flat, working in that hairspray into the hair and the roots, and then freezing it in place. And you can kind of see it all coming together at this point. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it to length, and basically we're going to go in this U shape, but we're going to feather the hair, and by that I mean you're just going to sort of gently move the scissors up and down so that you're not making it a blunt, you know, kind of cut. And we're going to continue in that U shape, just kind of all the way around. And that's why it's important not to, I guess, get hairspray in all of the hair that we had down, because otherwise you're going to get some like really choppy, chunky feathering going on there. So now that we've gone ahead and done that, we can sort of finesse it a little bit with the scissors and just sort of go in at the same angle as the hair and just sort of take little bits out of it. Make sure it's uniform in shape and length and stuff. Okay, so just to show you what we're working with, this is the wig from behind. Now, if you really wanted to give like a really super clean, crisp thing, you can go in with some scissors and just get rid of any like little frizzy bits that are completely sticking out. But it's gonna be covered by an entire second wig. Honestly, it doesn't really matter too much in my opinion, but hey, you do you, boo. The next thing I'm gonna do is cut these zip ties. Don't use the good scissors. And we're gonna pay attention to the hair at the crown. So it's at this point I'm gonna take out those two pins that I put in before to keep everything in place. And then we're gonna take all of this hair and effectively we're just literally gonna brush it into one ponytail. Now I'm also gonna add just a little bit of teasing, and that's because you're not gonna see too much of this, but I want to add the teasing for the bobby pins later when we secure the top wig. I want a little bit of grit for those bobby pins to sort of pin into. And yeah, you can just pierce through the actual wig itself. But I think when you add extra teasing, it just, I don't know, it makes it hold better. It's not that hard, and it's an easy thing to do. The good thing about Khaki Originals is because of the way the wigs are layered and designed, I didn't want them to be too heavy, and so there's actually quite a lot of hairs that end like halfway-ish or whatever, and that way you still get that volume at the base without necessarily having all of the weight of, you know, a pretty much double stacked wig. What that means is it doesn't take too much to tease it at all, because all of the hair is just ready to be pushed into the root. So now we're just going to start brushing the hair so it's laying nice and flat and smooth. And then we're going to take another zip tie and zip tie this hair to the rest of it, kind of at the base of this almost back ponytail that we've got going on. So I'm just going to make sure that we're laying nice and flat like that. And then kind of secure it in place with hairspray and a blow dryer. And then cut off the excess of the zip tie. Now, if I was doing an updo, I would probably try harder to make sure everything looks nice and smooth or whatever. But the reality is we're putting a nice big wig over this, so it doesn't really matter too much, except for this last bit. Now, I think we're just gonna we're gonna keep it simple, I think, with this one. So just brush it all back and effectively do the exact same thing that we just did with the hair from the crown. Except this is like the most important part to look nice, because it'll be the most visible of the base wig. What I'm gonna do is make sure that the hairline is nice and blow dried, uniform, out of the face. And if you wanted, you could add things like, you know, a little curl to sit on the face and look soft and pretty, or you can add some braids here or whatever, just for that little detail. But this wig's for me, and I feel like being lazy today. So I'm just going to brush this hair all directly back in the direction that it's going to go eventually. And I'm just going to use my hairdryer and just make sure there's some uniformity. There's no, I don't know, kinks in the hair before we put it all away. What I'm gonna do is on the very edges of the hairline, I'm just gonna spray a little bit of hairspray, because I've got them sitting exactly, so this part's going back, this part's going here, out, 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 and I kind of want to keep it that way. So I'm just going to add a little bit so that when I pull it all in, it's all still fanning out before coming into a point at the thing. I don't know if it's making sense, but it works for me. And then we simply are going to gather it up and zip tie it as well. What you can do is just hold it like it's one big ponytail Make sure all of it is going nice and smoothly in the directions you want it. Adding a touch of hairspray for any flyaways. And what you can even do is once you've got a section nice and smooth in how you want it, you can spray it down and slick it, and then chuck in a bill clip, duck bill clip, or whatever they are, right, until you've got it all the way around. And we're going to do the same thing with this zip tie. Now you are going to need bigger zip ties. You can't use the little ones because you're basically just zip tying around all of the hair in one huge ponytail. And when it's synthetic hair, it's obviously a lot thicker than human hair. So the little zip ties just aren't gonna reach. But if you are struggling on time, or you just don't want to go to the shops and get a bigger zip tie, you can just zip tie two smaller ones together to make a bigger zip tie. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just gonna lock it in with hairspray. A good few coats, maybe 3, 4. Get this as a really rock solid base. And then we can chuck another wig on top of it. Awesome, and honestly, like, that's pretty much it as far as the base goes. The last thing that we need to do is, I use these whenever I'm double stacking my wigs, just because, I don't know, when you put a whole nother wig on, there's a lot of void space, and you can't really expect it to keep its full volume or whatnot. So I literally will just push it through kind of like that, but I don't even pull it out so that it sits like a ponytail or anything. I literally will just leave it as is. And then I'll take some jumbo bobby pins and pin through that teasing that we put in before, or pin through the wig cap itself. Now the important thing is with the bobby pins and pinning your second wig or whatever, you never want to have one straight down. You kind of want to go down, catch it, and bring it back up, because otherwise you're going to be poked in the head by all these metal bobby pins, which is not ideal. So you kind of got to scoop it, if that makes any sense at all. Probably 5 is good, 3 in the front, 2 in the back. And then the last thing that I'll do before we can move on to the topper is I'll take the hairnet that the wig came in, just one of these hairnet things, and I'll just contain any of these sort of edges that might poke out. You're never ever gonna see them, but it's just to make sure that everything stays nice where it should be. And you can even take, they don't have to be big bobby pins, you can just take a little bobby pin and just sort of secure it wherever, so that that hairnet doesn't go around everywhere. And look, that's pretty much it as far as this base goes. There's a few different names for what you would call this, like a switch base or an updo base or literally just ponytail bun, whatever. But it's a great versatile, I guess, thing. You can attach a topper, or if you remove this donut here, you can also pull it out and make it into, you know, one wig updo kind of thing. Or you can have 100 different toppers, you know, one like big and curly, one, you know, classic straight, something like that. And you can just swap between shows without having to reglue your wig. It's a really great, I guess, universal style that you can use for a lot of different looks. So yeah, that's the main bit. Now, when it comes to the topper, you can really put anything on there. Short, long, whatever. You just gotta kind of be conscious of the weight of the hair when you get into double stacks, because you don't want all of the weight focused at the back, and you just don't want too much weight on the top of your head because you're just gonna end up with a headache, or at least I do anyway. So what I have here is another wig in the same color. And realistically, you don't have to have two of the same wig. You can have a black base and then anything with a black root to chuck on top. But for today, I have a wig of the same color. And you can attach it in multiple different ways. I recommend using either zip ties or the big bobby pins. But I want a more permanent solution. So what I do is I'm going to just chuck my second wig on top, pin it in the center, like that. And honestly, you can just chuck some bobby pins and leave it at that. But I'm going to take the elastic bits from the wig. So this one on this side, and then this one on this side. And I'm going to pull them around the back underneath that donut area and just pull them around and connect them together at the front. And it's probably gonna be easier if I just pin this or clip this hair out of the way so that I can see what I'm doing. And this way, the wig is going to sit quite nicely around the donut, and it'll be really secure. So yeah, all I'm doing is pulling those two clips around and just really tightly securing them together. Like so. And then you can pull the pin out and just let it find a position where it's sitting quite nicely. And then you can go ham with your large bobby pins. Now this topper is just another wig that I've cut the lace section off of, but if you're not like me and don't have, you know, 100 wigs at your disposal, you can just fold the lace under itself so that it's not peeking out anywhere. But yeah, you want to kind of go through and pin the edges of this top wig into the base wig. And I would say you probably need about 6 or 7 of these large bobby pins. Don't even bother with the small bobby pins. It's not gonna hold. It's not for a performance, at least. A photo shoot, maybe. But yeah, I definitely would advise against using the small bobby pins that you can buy at the supermarket because it's just not going to work. Make sure that you secure the back of the wig as well because nobody wants a flappy double stack at the back. So, you know, once it's all pinned in, just fluff it around. All I've done with this is something similar to the last wig styling tutorial that I did with like a tighter curl and I did cut a little bit of layering into the front so that it's not so long and gonna come into my eyes. But I do kind of like the fact that it conceals a lot of this hair that's been pulled back. I don't know what it is. It just feels like I have this huge, fluffy, curly wig moment on, but you can still see the suggestion that it's a double stack, you know? I don't know. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but I like it. It's good. Anyway, and that's pretty much it. So all I need to do is spray it with some hairspray. Once I've got everything sitting where I want it. And I'll go ahead and I'll try it on. And there we have it. This is my classic go-to sort of double stack. I'll change what happens on top, but you know, you've got the base, and honestly from there, the world is your oyster. It's pretty well balanced. I mean, it is still a double stack, so I'm not gonna be doing cartwheels and whatnot in that. But yeah, it doesn't feel super heavy on the back, and it's not sliding as I'm moving around, which is basically the bare minimum when it comes to a good double stack. So yeah, I hope this tutorial helped, and that's it, I guess. Bye!